Are you surprised how long this shutdown has dragged on, or do you expect this to go on, given the very clear standoff from the two sides that maintains?
I am surprised. When I was in the Congress, there was a shutdown, but it lasted just a few days. We're now into 2 weeks. I am surprised. You know, I'm a former border governor. I live on the border. I don't understand the president's tactics. I think just to walk out of the meeting with the Democrats, I think there is a deal, though. It has to end, all of this. I mean, we're talking about millions of workers, essential services, TSA employees, national security, safety. I think a deal is around the area of perhaps partial funding, extra funding that is triggered by certain conditions in exchange for the dreamers, the 1 million dreamers, the temporary protected status of some Central American migrants that lawfully came in here seeking asylum. I know this is down the road. It's not going to happen right away. But look, the government has to reopen. My state is suffering enormously, one of the poorest states in the union with an enormous federal presence, tribal communities, food relief, federal food relief, national parks. You know, so I'm very concerned about how long this is taking and really the inflexibility of the president.
Well, but you're also a Democrat, right? So it's interesting because you are from a border state. Who do you feel has the upper hand when it comes to the argument and where the public lies on this issue?
Well, I know we have to be balanced, but I have to tell you, I was a border governor. Immigration, illegal immigration has dramatically declined. The Central American migrants have either, many of them have gone home or they're applying in temporary status, asylum in Mexico. There's not 4,000 terrorists. There is no border crisis. I know this is the president's signature campaign issue. You know, in the election, he lost the House. He lost governorships. I don't see the political. I'm a politician. I try to see, you know, the substance of the good question you asked. I don't see the plus for him, except that he keeps his base happy, 30%, but he loses a lot of independent, suburban voters and federal workers. You know, we're talking about 6 million people.
Do you think some kind of wall or fence is morally reprehensible, as some Democrats are framing?
You know, there's already some fence constructed. I think some kind of extension of what has been built with triggers. I think longer term, it's an inefficient effort. It's a signal that we're closing borders to a neighbor country like Mexico. The new Mexican president, I think, has proposed something sensible. Jobs for Central America, jobs for on the border. The U.S. and Mexico participate, fund this. Do it through jobs. Don't do it through, like, closing off borders.
Do you think, you mentioned maybe an exchange for something on the Dreamers. I mean, that doesn't even really seem to have entered the active debate right now.
Not now, not now. I know that. But I think the 1 million Dreamers, those kids that were born in the United States that are here lawfully, and that temporary protection status of Haitians, El Salvadorians, that have been fleeing because of repression, because of gangs, restore those executive orders that protected them in exchange for maybe a little more funding that's not specific. I mean, this is how politicians think. You think of ways that you cover yourself.
So shifting from your governor experience to your experience as ambassador to the UN, you've dealt with China. There's optimism right now that the U.S. and China can make some sort of trade deal. Given your experience and knowledge of the Chinese, do you expect it to happen?
Well, I'm encouraged there. What I saw today is specialists teeing up a potential deal. And the principals, the president, the big negotiators, finishing off before the deadline of March the 2nd, in exchange for the Chinese buying more agricultural products, energy projects, manufacturing products. The Chinese change.
That's the easy part, though. What about state subsidies and intellectual property theft and that sort of stuff?
That's where the Chinese have to make real progress. Intellectual property, technology transfer. Basically, they steal our technology. And then lastly, it has to be enforced. And from the national security standpoint, I want a deal with China because we need their desperate support on sanctions on North Korea. And I think a lot of trade jobs are lost. I'm a free trader, a Democrat, endangered species. But I just don't see a trade war being in anyone's interest.
Governor, do you think the stock market calm, the relative calm of the last couple of weeks, improves the U.S. negotiating hand? Do you think that's something that the president is really focused on?
Yeah, it improves our hand. And also China's economy is not exactly booming either. So that helps us. And China, I think, looks at its international economic trade posture and wants to make a deal. And I commend those that want to see China end a lot of their unfair trade practices, like subsidies. But, it's the implementation, it's the enforcement. But I am encouraged by what I saw today. The deadline is March 2nd. I don't want us to put 2/5 of import on Chinese goods that come into the U.S. I don't want a big trade war.